Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar about HD PCM version 13. We'll get started in just a moment or two. In the meantime, I have a few logistics to go over. First of all, we are using a GoToWebinar in which, in order to ask questions, please type your questions in the chat menu, which is on the right hand of your screen. We'll then address them as we come to places in today's presentation where we can answer them. And we have a lot of things to show here, so stay tuned and we'll get started in just a moment. All right, I told you it would be just a moment. So given it is now 8:02, we wanted to go ahead and just move forward. So thank you again for attending today's webinar about HD PCM version 13. My name is John Garay. I'm in charge of I'm part of the marketing team here at Hard Dollar. And with me today I have Dave Ailman, who will be demoing the software. He heads up our solution engineering group. So basically I'll do the talking and Dave will do the showing. So first of all, we're excited to be introducing HD PCM version 13 to you. This is a culmination of a lot of feedback that we have received from all of you, our customers, and it is a chance for us to take all of that feedback, put it into a release, and then get it out there so that you can start benefiting from it. Dave, can you move it to the next screen? You might be on pause mode. All right, I'm seeing.
Yeah, sorry about that, John.
Yes, here we go. All right, there we go. So that gets us started, the ball rolling here. So again, this is all about listening to all of you, our customers. We have a lot of things on our roadmap, and this new release of HD PCM version 13 moves towards that overall roadmap that we have defined and have been sharing with many of you. And when it comes down to it, it's about delivering, getting it all together and getting it out there. So when we were looking at all of the updates, all the enhancements in this version, there are more than 25, almost 30 new features and enhancements in this HD PCM version 13. We can group them into three main categories. The first of those groups is improved connectivity. Connectivity within the ecosystem is a key part of everything that is a key part of the overall project cost management vision. So connectivity with things like Microsoft Excel, accounting, ERP systems, and scheduling systems is all a key part of what Hard Dollar is about, and it's a key part of what it is that all of you are using our software for. Second, the main section of improvements is around more accurate estimates. This is a key functionality and a reason why many of you use our software. And so we've taken your feedback and built them into the software with new features that make it easier and quicker than ever to create more accurate bids. And finally, better managed costs. There are new calculation options to improve forecasting throughout the project lifecycle, and we'll show you some of those on today's webinar. All right, let's move on. And by the way, if you have your phone unmuted, if you can mute here, we can hear paper shuffling and stuff. All right, so let's talk about the first main area, and that's improved connectivity. So a key part, as I was mentioning, of our ecosystem is the link that we have between scheduling systems, the accounting systems, and of course the estimating systems. And bringing it all together is what we call project cost management. It's part of having a connected ecosystem. And the flow of information between those systems is critical for making sure that you always have traceability for the numbers and that you don't have isolated islands of information within any of your project-driven systems. So this image is a way that we portray that information, that ecosystem. And so tying that together with the features and improvements and everything is a key part of what we're doing here. So let's go over, I get 3 of the main highlights among connectivity. The first, and this is the flagship feature of this new version, is a new account code hierarchy. What this is it actually straddles across multiple enhancement areas, including connectivity. So first of all, it provides a new way to organize and leverage your benchmark data from previous projects by providing an alternate structure. And second of all, in the connectivity side, it simplifies integrations with accounting and ERP systems by maintaining structural alignment. We'll go into that in a little more detail in a moment. Also, Primavera P6 connectivity. When we've asked all of you which scheduling systems, which other systems you use, more than half of you use Primavera as part of your project-driven enterprise. And so connectivity with that is an important part of our solution offering, and improvements on that are part of what we're listening to and putting into the product. Microsoft Excel connectivity is another key area of part of the ecosystem, and we have a whole bunch of new enhancements on that side. And then finally, a key area as we talk to customers about the way that they're managing their projects and the key gaps and problems that they're having, job site connectivity is a key part, a key thing that they come back to us with. So in this new release, as part of this new release, we're talking about the functionality that exists today within our software suite for gathering timesheets from the field on Windows laptops and tablets and using that to create more accurate information within the front office systems. So let's take a look at the first key feature, and that's the account code hierarchy. What this is all about is providing an alternate way to organize your estimates so that it facilitates your work in benchmarking by creating a way to take estimates from the past that may have been organized at different levels of detail, rolling that up in the account code hierarchy, and then using that data in your current estimate so that you can have a broader base of benchmark data to build your current estimates based upon. Second of all, and this is another key capability brought by this new feature, is the ability to create, I guess, apples to apples points of contact between the estimate and the accounting or ERP systems, whether it be SAP, Oracle JD Edwards, Viewpoint, Dexter Cheney, or any of the other systems that all of you are using for the accounting side. Many times the way that you want to estimate and create your bids is not necessarily the way that accounting keeps track of stuff. And with this new account code hierarchy, you have the ability to organize data in both ways, the way that makes sense for your estimate, and then also in the way that makes sense and it can link more efficiently with your accounting system. So let's go into an example here of what this looks like. So right now, this is what we have today. It's the cost breakdown structure is the primary way to organize an estimate. And as you can see here, in CBS codes 1.1 and 1.2, each of those element levels has 2 cost elements within it. They roll up and have that summary data, but they're organized into 2 per each cost element. So with this new version, we've introduced an alternate structure, the account code structure. And in this case, you can see we've taken those 4 elements, and in this case, we have 3 of the elements under one side and one account code hierarchy, and then just one of them in the 900 level of the account code. And so what that means is that when you then roll up the data by account code, you can see the 3 items within the 100 account code are grouped together, and then their quantities roll up together. And the same with the 900 level. It's just one item in this case, and so it just has that. So again, this helps with the benchmarking and helps with the integration with other systems. So to help illustrate it more, let me turn it over to Dave, who will then walk through this new feature. Dave?
All right, John. Thank you. All right, let's jump into Hard Dollar and take a look at the new account code hierarchy, which resides in the account code utilization register. So first we'll review the CBS, and then we'll get into the account code hierarchy, account code utilization register. So in the account code, in the CBS register, it's the best place to create the estimate. You're able to break down your scope items into more granular activities down to a bottom level where you want to estimate at this terminal cost item level. And then as we know, in the CBS register, we're able to benchmark whether it's against cost or productivity. So we can benchmark our scope items here in the CBS register. And then also in the CBS we have the account code field, which allows us to assign our cost to our accounting or ERP codes here. And then once we do that, we've assigned our costs, and the resources inherit those account codes. And until now, we've only been able to export or report this data out via our budget export file. We'd roll it up and export it out for our accounting and ERP integration. Now we've created our new account code hierarchy, and it resides in the account code utilization register. So to access that from the CBS register menu, we click on View, Account Code Utilization. So here's a new option here. As John said, we're taking those costs and we're rolling them up into a single line item. So the account code utilization register has several columns of data. Most of the columns of data are read-only. In the account code utilization, we see the hierarchy arrangement now with our account codes. So here's a superior account code, subordinate account code. So like the CBS register, the rows in the account code utilization register represent account codes versus the CBS where they're cost items. And again, we have established a parent-child hierarchy or relationship by introducing this new account code hierarchy separator. So in my example, I've defined that with a period. So any account codes that in this set here that end after 1120 period 0050, these are all child account codes that roll up to the parent items. So like our other registers in the program, we're able to export this data out to Excel or do a print it out to a hard copy if we need to, or save it as a digital document. So how do we get these cost and account codes to roll up and define these quantities? So we've introduced this new couple of new data blocks here on this screen. If I click on View Default Data Blocks, you see over here on the right this benchmarking, and we'll take a look at this shortly. I'm going to close that down. And then we can scroll down here to my job overhead as an example. And down here in the Utilizing Items register, it displays all the cost items or cost items with utilized resources that have the same matching account code that's displayed up in the account code utilization register. So here's all my cost items that are from my CBS. So if we go back and look at our CBS, we see job overhead was estimated in various areas of the project of the estimate, and they're rolled up and summarized into one account code. So the costs are rolling up and to the cost of the account code. And in this example, the quantity was manually input. I used our bidirectional integration with Primavera P6, scheduled out, had it define the cost of my duration at 120 days, and I've manually entered that 120 days. So now I'm able to calculate for example, daily overhead job costs. Here's my unit cost. So I'm running about $5,300 on the unit cost basis. We go up and look at excavation. Scroll up here and look at excavation. Change my views to a setup view. So on excavation, we see by utilizing items, I have one cost item with that same account code. And this is a clear example of how the costs are rolling up to the account code from the cost item. And in this example, I use the quantity of the cost item, contribute primary quantity to the primary quantity of the account code. This is auto-selected, so therefore it's using that quantity there at these terminal account codes. And then at the superior level, I'm able to use the subordinate cost items to define the quantity. So this 50,000 here on this account code, I'm using it to drive the quantity of that superior account code. So now that we're able to organize this data by our account code structure, then we're able to benchmark against other jobs, no matter how we estimate those jobs at whatever level. So I'm going to turn on our benchmarking graph. And over here on the right, change this view to my units per man hour to match my graph on the right. So here we have excavation. We're currently our estimate's at 40 cubic yards per man hour. Here's my low, medium, and high in tabular format, color coded for my benchmarking. This is displaying the percent of variance from the average data points. So over here on the scatter graph on the right, we see the benchmarking graph displaying the current productivity rate as built, and the triangles are as built from our jobs captured in HD, and then here's my as estimated cost from jobs captured in HD as well. Excuse me, and the color bands again represent the variance, or percent of variance from the average of the benchmark data points. So I think that wraps it up on the account code utilization register. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to type those in, and as time permitting at the end, we can get to them. All right, John, back to you.
All right, thank you, Dave. So definitely account code hierarchy is a key new feature that we added to this version. So looking forward to all of your feedback about that once you get moving with this new version. Another key feature on the connectivity side, and this one's pure connectivity, is the Primavera P6 enhancements. And here you can see when it comes down to it, getting the tightest available connectivity is a key part of what it is that all of you need and have talked to us about, and so we're delivering that here with this new version. And with that, we have 3 new areas that we're highlighting as part of this. Number 1, you can see define schedule logic segments and then sync those back and forth. And then number 2 is the ability to suspend hard dollar cost items and keep them within the schedule in order to maintain schedule logic relationships. In the past, there was a hiccup with that particular function. And then finally, and this is true whether you're using relatively small projects or whether you're using very large projects, we've made significant performance improvements. And what that means on the smaller side is it'll be snappier, and what it means on the big side is a significant decrease in the amount of time it takes to synchronize the information back and forth with Primavera. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Dave. Dave, you might be on mute.
Sorry about that. All right, we'll review the schedule integration. So let me go back here to CBS and change it to my schedule view. And here we'll go through an example. We have a couple items here that we're going to push over to Primavera P6. First, we'll take a look at that new enhancement setting. So we go up to Forms, Job Properties, go over to the Schedule tab in our mapping options. Now, right here, we've added this new option here. If we check the box, we can synchronize our schedule relationships and push those relationships from hard dollar to P6. Previously, we were only able to bring back those, we'd have to push it to P6, schedule it, and then only bring back the dates. So now we have an option either to push the relationships from hard dollar to P6 and also pull those relationships back and have them populate our cost item record. So in this example, I'm going to push them from hard dollar. So as the estimator is putting it together as estimate, he's able to come in here and schedule these items. So if we look at clear and grubbing, I'm going to open up this cost item record, and the new enhancement resides down here in the schedule tab. Undock this so we can view it. And so down here we've added this new section, schedule relationships. So I am on clearing and grubbing, cost item 2. So simply clicked in this field and I said I want to have mobilization, and then here I can define my relationship. So it's a predecessor, my relationship types, I'm able to define those, any lag, etc. And then I've selected excavation as a successor. So we define those schedule relationships. Again, as we're creating our estimate, we can start thinking about the schedule and populate these fields in here. And then when we come back here and schedule our job, I have a few items scheduled here. I can come up here and go forms, schedule, update Primavera from hard dollar. And then this is a new addition to our field here, is update schedule relationships. So yes, I want to push those over to P6, just another reminder. Hit OK. And it talks to the Primavera API. Go over here to P6 and hit refresh. There's my job. I'm going to open up the job, and I see my items have been pushed over. So previously they would just look like this. We'd have to schedule those relationships. Now if I'm going to hit F9 and schedule those items, we see they're scheduled out. I click on that clearing and grubbing item and I see mobilization and excavation over here. Another enhancement was previously if you suspended a cost item, then that item would be dropped out of your schedule logic in P6. So I'm going to go ahead and suspend this clearing and grubbing, save it, and then come back up here and push it over to P6. Yes, I want those relationships to go over. Come over here to P6, and then when I hit refresh, we see the item still appears there. The logic remains. However, it's suspended, so no duration, no costs have been pushed over. If we elected to do that, it's just like in hard dollar where it zeroes all the cost and quantities out of the activity. So those are the two main enhancements. And again, as John mentioned, the increased performance as well. All right, John, back over to you.
All right, Dave, thank you for that. So building on the Primavera P6 connectivity, you can see on this slide that we have also focused on the Microsoft Excel connectivity. I guess just like Primavera is used by majority of our customers, Microsoft Excel is used by even more. And we recognize that, and so we've put a lot of effort into listening to all of your feedback and then creating the features that help make it easier than ever to move data back and forth between the systems. So I'm not going to go through all of the different bullet items here, but you can see there's a number of different things that are all about making it easy to link between Excel and HD PCM. So I'll hand it over to Dave to show you some of this. Dave?
Thanks, John. Let's see, let's move the slide over, and we'll go over into, back over here into hard dollar. And we'll start out by looking at what are the new enhancements as to our billing rates. We've had a lot of requests from customers about being able to enter billing rates on our resources in mass quantities, so mainly copy and paste from Excel is what most of our customers were doing. So let's go take a look at that one first. Forms, resource rate register, and when I click on my labor resource category, And first off, I'll show you in the record, at the record level, when I expand the record, scroll over here to the right, we see some new columns that have been added: the billing rate markup, billing rate percentage, and then to access those in a column format, we can go to View, Resource Cost Details, and then here I have, pull up this labor billing rate view here, and I have my columns now in my Resource Cost Detail register. I have those columns open now: billing rate, the billing rate markup, and the billing rate markup percentage. So I have access to those columns. These are editable fields, so I can go in here and put the billing rate in here. So in this view, I have the cost of my labor resource for my scale 1 is at $27.48. Then I could manually go in here and type all these in, but typically the customer has those rates in an Excel spreadsheet. Go to my Excel spreadsheet. I have an example here where I have some billing rates already predefined, so now I'm able to copy these billing rates from my Excel spreadsheet. And again, when we copy them in, we need them in a number format, no currencies. Come back over here, and I'm going to populate this column, highlight there, and I can paste those right in. So again, very quick and easy. Rather than painfully open up each record and tabbing through, I'm able to just copy and paste them in there. And then when we go back to this resource rate register, again, I can scroll over here to the right and see those values here in the record. All right, the next one is in our Excel import from our template in our CBS register. So I'm going to jump over here to this blank CBS register, change my view to a simple view, and we've always been able to import or update our CBS register from Excel, but what we've added here is be able to identify my file that I'm mapping to, and then in my defined mapping we have a couple of new features in here that we'll run through. So I'm going to map in and build my CBS structure, so I have mapped over my CBS position code, for example, over to my CBS position code in my Excel spreadsheet. And then I'm able to build this CBS structure. So once I've made those assignments, I can save those in here to a named setting. So I've had an Excel import A, which I've mapped over, and it retains those settings. I can hit OK, and I'm going to import that CBS structure, for example. So it imports and builds that CBS structure for me. If I go take a peek at that Excel spreadsheet, I see I have costs in that spreadsheet, so I want to bring in those costs. So previously in our mapping import, we were not able to import any plug cost. So now I'm going to go back in here, I'm going to update my structure, go back into my defined mapping, and I have a second save setting here. We'll go to Excel import B. On that one, I'll highlight a couple of new additions. So this one here is a pretty powerful one to import my cost source. So on my cost source, I can map over whether it's detail plugged or detail plug or a quote, and then I can also, down here on my cost item plug cost, I can map over to my cost categories. So I can bring in my cost categories as undefined labor, map over undefined labor to my Excel spreadsheet, undefined labor. And then when we're mapping in our plug cost, I can import my plug cost values either as a unit cost or a total cost here. Let me go take a look at my spreadsheet again real quick. Okay. So I'm able to map in those costs as plug costs, and then note here it says important plug costs will only be active for cost items whose cost source has been set to plug. So I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to update my spreadsheet. And let me change Let me bring up one column here. So notice my cost did not change here. So bring up my cost source. And the reason that these didn't change where my costs were at my terminal cost items because they're set to detail still. So if I manually change this over, they will be plug, and they're picking up those plug costs that I brought in. So ideally in my Excel spreadsheet, I would have a column in here identifying, for example, cost item 3 would be detail, and then cost item 3.1 and 3.2 as plug cost source. And I could map in that cost source, already toggle these over to the correct cost source and have those roll up. So we can do that. So I'll go ahead and do these here real quick. And then the next enhancement we have here with our Excel import mapping is we're able to change our, previously in the PBS changes log would not pick up any changes that happened when we imported our costs through the mapping process. So I can come back over here, for example, and let me change my undefined labor and add $10,000 to that. Let's save my Excel file. And then I'm going to go in and turn on my PBS changes log. So now that it's on. And then I'm going to map it in again, and we'll see if that captures that change. So we should expect to see this item here go up by $10,000. Go back to find my mapping. Again, I don't have to map it out. I can just reference that previously saved mapping structure, hit OK, and then import it. Cost went up by $10,000. We go look at our PBS change item log, open up, it created a record, and it's changing the before and after value there and capturing that change. And again, previously that PBS change log was not picking up those changes, so we made that enhancement. Another enhancement that we have that is really handy that I'm excited about is, as you know, or most of you know, we've always been able to link our cells to Excel, our embedded Excel spreadsheet. Now we've made on a lot of our row 1 job row in the CBS register now has totals, and we're able to map those totals out to our embedded Excel spreadsheet. So now I can map out this total, and I can link this out to Excel. So I come down here, and here's my predefined range, and hit OK. Turns it green, indicating that we're pushing that number out to our embedded Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to update the spreadsheet, and then now I click on that link, and here's my number pushed out to my embedded Excel spreadsheet. So again, our cost categories, man hours, equipment hours, etc., those now have totals in row 1, and we're able to link those out and push those out to Excel. And I think that's all the major enhancements here right now that we'll cover in that Excel spreadsheet, Excel linking exactly. So back over to you, John.
Great, thank you very much, Dave. And as you can see, a whole bunch of stuff going on with connectivity in terms of Primavera, in terms of the accounting facilitation, and in terms of the Excel integration capabilities as well. And another key area that we're talking about in terms of connectivity is job site connectivity. Specifically, the ability to tie information of what's going on in the job site back to the front office system, back to HD PCM. And today, we have that capability in terms of our timesheet collector software. Our timesheet collector software, in conjunction with our timesheet server, enables the data collection of actual hours worked, for example, on Windows laptops and tablets, specifically on the Surface Pro and Surface Pro 2 tablets. These make it easy to record time and progress. Another key feature of this timesheet collector is that it supports disconnected use, which means when you're in the field collecting data, you might not have connectivity with the internet, with your back office systems, with your front office systems here. And with timesheet collector running on a tablet or a laptop, in the field, that's okay, because you can enter in the data at the point where you're gathering it. And then once you're connected again, feed that data back through the system to get everything back in sync. So this is a solution that exists today. It's something that we would be happy to talk to you about if you have questions and want to learn more. And it's a key part of the connectivity story that we are building, that we have around all of our software. So just to show you a picture, on this next slide here, this is a picture of Timesheet Collector on a Windows Surface Pro tablet. You can see it's outside, it's not connected to a network, and it provides a way to update tasks and items on this remote and mobile platform. So that's all we're showing today about that. We'd be happy to talk more if you would like to see more. The second major area of enhancements beyond connectivity is that core function of creating more accurate estimates. Now, of course, this is why many of you started using hard dollar software in the first place. And so we're taking that functionality and listening to what enhancement requests you've talked to us about and building that into the software. First thing on that list, in the highlighted list here, is the automatic highlighting of quote groups with new sub and vendor quotes. So during bid closeout, we now make it easy to see the changes or which groups have changed because of new updates coming into the system from subs and vendors. That helps you to make more accurate estimates by incorporating that latest information into your estimates. Second, a new waste factor that can be added to your estimates helps to keep track of the wastage and account for it up front, the wastage that happens with certain types of materials in the project, helping you create more accurate estimates. And then finally, we've built in a new enhancement, a new usability feature that makes it easy to remove resource and assemblies from multiple cost items all at once. So let's go into more detail about all three of these. So first of all, change quote highlights. This is all about the bid review process. And so right now, when you have a lot of things going on during your bid closeout, you might be getting updates coming from different subs and vendors, but you kind of have to today go through each of the different groups to make sure that you're accounting for all of the latest. With this new highlighting function, when a new quote comes in, it makes it easy to see. And that helps you to review and then incorporate it within your bid in time for the bid to be submitted. So let's turn it over to Dave to demo this feature.
All right, thanks, John. Let's go jump into our demo job here, and we'll look at these new quote enhancements. So we're going to go into the, they reside in the quote comparison and award forms. We're going to go to forms, quote comparison and award. We'll look at our cost item work. So I'm going to open up this left-hand side here, and we'll take a look at our guardrail work. So our new features are right here, the highlighted areas over here. So we have a couple fields that we're going to review here. So first new field is the award status. So we have award status, which can be either complete or incomplete. So complete means that the quote group has quotes, so we see it has quotes, and the quotes have been awarded. So if I go back and award them back to my plug item here, we notice the status changed to incomplete. So again, it means it's incomplete, that we have quotes that we've recorded in the quote register, but they have not been awarded. Once they're awarded, then we have our next column over here is that we have a status of reviewed. So review means that when we award them, we'll get a prompt to ask us if we want to mark this as complete. So the check mark box was either it's been reviewed or not reviewed. So the check mark indicates it's been reviewed. When the check mark's in the box, it also puts a date and a timestamp in this review column. So as you see, I can manually check the review box. I have the icons here that I can set quote groups that are reviewed, or from the menu you go to process, set groups to review as well. So again, 3 different ways that you can actually have that box checked off as reviewed. Again, once it's reviewed, then the last reviewed cell automatically populated with date, time. And up here we have a quote last change. So this reports time of the last change of the quote. If we look at this, we get a call from our sub number 1 here, and he has the current price, and he's here at the from each one. So change those values. If the quote record has been changed in any way, and the red status will appear. Again, the red status means that there's been a quote record that has been modified. So again, we see the last date and time stamp here where it's changed, and then we need to review the work. So in this example, he's been bidder, but he's not the most responsible bidder. We're going to say so too. So I need to manually clear this red indicator. To do that, we simply double click on the reviewed column, click again, and it removes the red indicator. So again, the enhancements here on the cost item record, and then reverse see these 4 new columns as well. And then in addition to that, we can manage our quote groups from one source here, Forms Foundation data. The quote group tag register and foundation setup data. All right, John, back over to you.
All right, thank you, David. So let's talk about the new waste factor. Waste factor, so there are certain types of resources and materials, say for example concrete, that typically involves some level of waste, whether it be certain percentage, whether it be concrete, whether it be piping, and with that waste, if you know about it beforehand, you can account for it within the estimate. And instead of just kind of padding the overall estimate, with this new waste factor, you can account for it in a separate column so that you can still keep record of that neat line amount, but then have this other waste factor that you can then measure and account for in your estimates. So Dave, I'll turn it over to you to show.
All right, great. Thanks, John. So we'll go look at the waste factor. First, we'll start out on how we can apply a default waste factor on our resources. So I'm going to go into Forms, Resource Rate Register, and look at installed material as my example. So when I'm in my standard view in the Resource Rate Register, we have visibility into the new feature where we have the waste percentage add-on. So if I go and look at my aggregate-based rock, I can assign a default waste percentage add-on factor of 10%. So I add 10% to my neat line takeoff number. And that new field here, waste percentage add-on, open up the record and go to the Setup tab. It resides down here in the Setup tab, so this is a new addition right here. So in this one here, I've defined, again, a default 10% waste factor add-on. So now if I go look at in my CBS register, furnish and haul base material, 45,000. So ideally this would be 45,000 to match my neat line takeoff. And again, we have that default 10% waste factor add-on. So our cost is based upon this quantity here, 49,500 at the 887 or the 439,189. So we have visibility into our neat line takeoff, and then we're automatically adding 10% for that spillage, or maybe there's over excavation on our trench, so we can account for that by changing this number here. So then in addition to that, we can also do an ad hoc resource waste percentage add-on on a resource on the fly. So furnish and haul waste material. My neat line takeoff's 35,000 tons. I see my asphalt, 35,000 tons. Let's say I need 3.5% percentage waste add-on, and then we multiply that out again right here. And since this is an ad hoc, we notice we have the delta symbol here saying that that resource is now non-standard because the default on the resource rate record is at 0. So that's why the delta symbol is appearing there. All right, John, back over to you.
All right, thank you. And another usability enhancement that helps with creating more accurate estimates is the new feature of quickly removing resource and assembly assignments. In the past, when you wanted to remove a resource or assembly, like a D10 dozer is no longer available, you needed to go one by one through all of the assignments. And that can lead to stray assignments, which doesn't help with your schedule or with your estimate accuracy. So with this new feature, it is much easier to automatically review and then remove assignments as resources change, as the available resources change on your estimate, within your estimates. So Dave, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, John, let's go take a look at that. So that new feature resides here in the CVS register under the Tools menu, Tools, Remove Resource Employments. So I click on that option there, and let's say I need to, and then we can click on our resource finder here, and let's say I want to remove my laborer right here, LL2. And we have an option. We can remove all resource employments or only resource employments that are not unique. So I'm going to say I want to remove them all, but if this resource is part of an assembly and we want it to remain in that assembly, we can check this box off, retain resource employments that belong to an assembly, so we don't get out of sync on our assemblies. So again, identify the resource, hit OK, and it brings up a register, secondary selection register, that allows us to pick and choose which cost items we want to actually remove that resource from, or we can toggle them all. Maybe I just want to remove them from my mobilization item, and I can hit OK, and it will remove it and give me a prompt here. I can print that out, show me where that resource has been removed from. And then in addition to an individual resource, we can also quickly remove resource assembly employment. So if we employed a crew across in the CVS structure, need to remove it. Same way we can go and pick a crew, an employed crew, and then remove all or remove unique, and then we get that selection register as well, and we can pick and choose if we want to remove them all. Just leave them checked and hit OK, and it'll remove them all from our structure. So very simple and straightforward, but saves a lot of time. If you've ever had to do it, I'm sure you can understand. All right, John, back over to you.
All right, thank you, Dave. So the final area of improvement within the HD PCM version 13 release is around the performance side, the project cost management side, and the ability to better manage your costs. So let's look at the highlighted features there. So here, the three that we're highlighting today are, number one, more commitment flexibility to provide you with better visibility. Number two, creating forecasts based on specified date ranges for more accurate calculations. And number three, new earned value customizations to better match, to help you better match specific rules. So let's look at the first, the more commitment flexibility. So right now, when it comes down to the committed costs, we want to make it as easy as possible for you to understand where your committed costs are for specific areas within the project. So functionality here makes that easier. So helping you age questions like very helpful. And with the new track commitment date, it improves the visibility for better tracking analysis of commitments. So I'll turn it over to Dave to show you that.
All right, John, let's go with that new commitment enhancement. So we're going to go into our forms commitment register. And previously, in versions prior to 13, we introduced the commitment register. So now we've extended that functionality in the commitment register. When we click on Edit New, we still can create a from an existing quote, but we also open it up and we can create a commitment from scratch. So look at that one. So I can create a commitment from scratch, then it gives me my contribution. I can have visibility in my quoted items. Again, the new announcement is now that it's VS code. So I'm going to take a quote commitment now on my rebar. My rebar subcontractor is a plug cost item that I want to make a commitment on it. I can select that. I can put in here my PO number, date, time, short description, and then identify my subcontractor. And again, I'm creating a commitment off a cost item, and then I can come over here and maybe I want to do a commitment on 20,000 of the 30,000 pounds. Type right. So I'm able to create that commitment, and then also in this register here, if we scroll to the right, I'm in the standard view. All the way over here to the right, we've added a few more new columns. The actual date that the commitment was created, so we have visibility into that, how long we've created it, when we created it, the last time it was changed, and who actually created that record. So again, we've added these. I'm going to go ahead and commit this. Go back over to my commitments register and see it's committed. And then the next enhancement we made was our ability to revise a commitment. Previously, if the commitment changed, we would have to make a new commitment record in here to be able to track against. Now you can simply go in and open up an existing commitment record, click on Edit, Revise Commitment, and say now I want to commit 100%, and then I can say Commit Now. And again, we have visibility over here on the far right in the standard view, when it was created, last change, and then the last date. So Skip Far created this back in September, then I came in here and changed it. So we have visibility into those transactions. All right, so that's the commitment enhancements. We'll turn it back over to John here.
All right, so another key feature is the ability to build forecasts based on specific date ranges. What this is about is, of course, within our performance module, it's all about helping to forecast more accurately. And so with this ability now, with this new feature, what you can do is take a look at the performance in the past and get rid of those time frames that something strange was happening, whether it be a learning curve, whether it be abnormal weather. And with this feature, you can now select the specific date ranges you want to use for your forecasting. That better represents the actual performance you expect going forward. Again, to help you create more accurate forecasts. So I'll hand it over to Dave to show you this.
All right, thanks, John. So we'll jump back over here into hard dollar, and we'll go look at the forms. I'm in the forms job tracking register, and I'm going to go up here and I have a save view. It's forecast summary view, and in here I have a view showing. Let me back this up just a little bit, or I can just start from here. So here in my view, I have my my activity. We're going to look at cost item 3.1, and I have my as-built total cost. So I have some as-built entries that have been recorded for this activity, and then I have my estimate to complete. So we're talking about how we're going to calculate this number here, my estimate to complete, to give me, so my as-built plus estimate to complete gives me my total forecast total cost. Previously, we were calculating the estimate to complete number, but we were not able to display it in the register. So now we're able to display that as a column here in the register. gives me, and then I can compare that to my budget, for example, and give me my budget variance. So from this register, I'm going to go and set my forecast method for the selected range to average performance. And then I want to define what is my average performance. So first we're going to start out looking at this one here. So in the previous versions of Hard Dollar, my average performance represented all of my entries that were recorded here. So here I have 6 or 7 as-built dates entries recorded. So my average performance was at average unit cost of all these entries times my remaining quantity to give me my ETC number here at 15,000. So now what we've done is we've allowed the user to define what the average is. So we can come up here and say, calculate the average performance based on a quantity. Do I want to look back at the most recent 3 days? If I have several entries in there, do I want to look at the most recent 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, or number of entries? So I can select which one. So if I want to look back at the last 3 days, for example, I can choose that option, hit OK, and it's telling me here on my average performance date range settings, I have that displayed here. It's looking back at the last 3 days. So it's taking the average of these 3 entries, multiplying it by my remaining quantity to get me to calculate my new ETC number. So again, I can come up here, Tools, set average performance, date range for the selected items, or as John said, maybe the weather is bad. There's particular events that I want to eliminate. So now I want to look at my average performance. Really, to me, ideal performance, what I think is going to happen moving forward, is from July 28th to July 29th. So these first dates here is really what I want to use to calculate my ETC on my remaining quantities. So I can select those. Again, we have visibility here in the register view, what dates are being used, calculating my new ETC number, giving me my new EAC number. So from the register, again, I've been managing that from the register, and again, we can go into the cost item record. And in the cost item record on the forecast details tab here, that new option resides right here, average performance date. So if I toggle this to average performance, we still have our previous options, but when I toggle it to average performance, then I'm allowed to define it, and these options here are the same as we saw on that screen and from the register view here as well. So again, great flexibility in allowing the user to define what that average performance is to calculate the ETC. All right, that covers the part, so John, we'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, and we'll bring it in with our last feature here, which is new value calculation options. As all of you know, earned value is all about measuring the progress of your projects and giving you the options to measure in the way that you need to, whether it's due to certain regulations, certain policies, etc. We've given new ways, these new calculation options, calculate the earned value and report that earned value so that you can have consistency across everything you do by using consistent rules with that. So I'll hand it over to Dave to show you that.
All right, John, thanks. So we'll look at that new earned value calculation, a couple of them here. First one, we're going to look at how we calculate the earned value man hours on a roll-up item. So let me change my view here. And we have a new setting. Again, I'm in the job tracking register. I'm going to go to Forms, Job Properties, and go to Job Tracking. First, I'm going to deselect this one here, and we'll talk about it, and we'll come back here and analyze it. So back in the job tracking register, prior to 13, we have our budget man hours, and I have presumably over here 76%, 76% of 500 is my earned man hours to date, 86. So complete, 50% complete times my budget using my earned man hours here. So these were calculated based upon that calculation. The superior roll-up level, this here was based upon the percent complete, whether that's calculated on the man-hour contribution. It's taking the percent complete, 82% times the 900 to give us 741 man-hours. So now we've given you an option. Do you want to use the original calculation, the 82% times the 900, or do we want to add these values up, those contributing items, to the superior item? So again, back here in Job Properties, Tracking Setup tab, we have this new option. Calculate man-hours earned for roll-up items by summing the man-hours earned to the contributing cost items. So if I check that box off, now my earned man-hours to date are the sum of these two subordinate items here, 756.63. So it disregards that physical percent complete at that roll-up level. And then with the creation of the account code hierarchy in the which resides in the account code utilization register, we're able to then calculate, that gives us the ability to calculate and analyze our budget. We have our assigned quantities, so here's at my cost item level, my assigned quantities. I can calculate my percent complete, can record my as-built costs, my ETC, my forecasted costs, and my cost at completion on cost item levels. And then the last enhancement I want to go over is up back here in the job tracking register. Up here in the top left, we have this new band on the header band here. The earliest as-built entry that's recorded in the structure is recorded here, June 30th, and the latest as-built is also recorded automatically. So if I want to look at, I'm going to go back to that forecast view that I had up earlier. And if I want to look at my forecasted total costs at the July 31st period, if I look here at 3.1, I see that I have as-built entries spanning across 2 months. I have July and then August. I want to know what these numbers were, my as-built total costs, ETC, and forecast total costs on July 31st. So now we are able to calculate those numbers. So I can simply come up here to View, As-Built Reporting Range, place a check mark in this box, and I want to just look at from January 1st through July 31st. Hit OK. And we notice here that these August as-built entries were grayed out or suspended. So now our new as-built total cost, ETC, all my calculations are based upon that reporting range. When we have a filter turned on, we display that right here in the center in this new reporting band, as-built reporting range in the red font, to allow the user to know that there's a filter that's being applied. Then to remove that filter, we can simply go back up to the Job Tracking Register menu, View, As-Built Reporting Range, remove that check mark, hit OK, and then we see our values change, and now they include all the as-built entries recorded in the Job Tracking Register. All right, that's the major highlights here in the Job Tracking Register, so I'm going to turn it back over to John.
All right, so thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. We went through a lot of the new functionality, but not all of it. As I mentioned at the beginning, there are more than 25 new features and enhancements as part of this release. The What's New guide does go over that. If you go to our website right now, one of the primary banners is about this new version 13. If you click on that, it will provide information, links to individual demos of these features so that you can share it with others, as well as a link to the What's New document, and also a link to the download page. You may need to go to Support then Downloads to get to the download page right now. I think we're kind of phasing it in, but you can get started today with this new version. If you have questions, please let us know. Contact the support group. They'd be happy to help you. So are there any questions? If you have any questions, you can type them now in the chat function of GoToWebinar. I will just check to see if there are any in the queue. If not, we will wrap up. And we, again, appreciate your time. All right, so it doesn't look like there are any questions. So thank you. A recording of this will be available as well. So again, thank you. Thank you, Dave, for demoing. And have a nice day, everyone.
All right, you're welcome, John. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.